Have you ever wondered if the gods we worshipped, studied, or feared throughout history were truly what we think they were? What if the ancient gods, beings who shaped civilizations, dictated morals, and controlled the elements, were not divine entities, but something far more elusive, enigmatic, and human? Imagine this: the gods of old, often portrayed as powerful, omnipotent, and distant from humanity, might have been part of a far more complex reality, one we barely scratched the surface of. Today, we will unravel a mystery buried deep in the scrolls of history and philosophy, one that could change how you perceive the ancient world forever. The gods, often depicted with grandiose powers and otherworldly characteristics, might have been symbols of something greater: the unknown forces of the universe, misunderstood technology, or even advanced beings whose true purpose and nature remain hidden from us. These ancient figures may have been misinterpreted, manipulated, or even suppressed by later civilizations. In this video, we will explore why the ancient gods were not what we've been taught to believe. We'll dive into ancient myths, texts, and artifacts that have long been shrouded in mystery, discovering clues that suggest these gods might have been something radically different from what mainstream history has presented. Why were these deities revered? What if their powers weren't the result of divine intervention, but rather ancient knowledge lost to time? Join me as we step through a veil that has kept us from understanding the true nature of these mysterious beings. The answers might shock you. The hidden wisdom of the gods, a reality beyond belief. To understand why the ancient gods were not what we think, we must first revisit the history and philosophy surrounding these figures. Let us begin with one of the most famous examples: the gods of ancient Egypt. Pharaohs were considered living gods, intermediaries between the divine and the mortal. But were they truly divine? Or were these rulers simply advanced in knowledge and power, their true identities obscured by later myth-making? The famous god King Osiris, revered as the ruler of the afterlife, may have had his origins in an earlier, forgotten civilization, one that understood secrets of the universe that we can barely begin to comprehend today. In other cultures, such as the Sumerians and the Greeks, gods like Anu, Zeus, and Poseidon were often depicted in human-like forms with supernatural abilities. Yet, these gods shared traits that suggest they were more than just mythological figures. Many of them had clear roles and responsibilities, managing not just the elements and the heavens, but societal systems, agriculture, war, and even the very laws of the land. Why would powerful deities need to govern the everyday affairs of humanity? Could these gods have been representatives of a greater intelligence, or perhaps early forms of extraterrestrial visitors? Philosophically, the ancient gods have always been the subjects of debate. The Neoplatonists, for instance, argued that gods were manifestations of a greater, transcendent reality. Plato's divine forms were not divine beings in the traditional sense, but symbolic representations of higher truths and concepts. If these gods were merely reflections of something more abstract, then our understanding of them as literal, all-powerful entities begins to unravel. But why were these truths hidden? Why were these figures of wisdom and knowledge not passed down through the ages? One theory is that as human civilizations evolved, the understanding of the gods was intentionally restructured by the priesthoods, rulers, and political powers. Knowledge was power, and keeping such knowledge out of the hands of the masses ensured control over both spirituality and society. Ancient gods became symbols of power rather than wisdom, their true meaning lost in the murky depths of time. Now, let us begin the journey of deconstructing these ancient gods and what they might have represented. At the heart of many ancient religions was the concept of divine intervention in the natural world. In Mesopotamian mythology, for instance, the gods were often said to manipulate the weather, cause floods, or grant harvests. The Bible's God similarly has dominion over creation, parting seas and performing miracles. But what if these events were not miracles, but rather evidence of advanced technology or forgotten sciences? Take the Egyptian god Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. Thoth was often depicted as a man with the head of an ibis or a baboon. Was Thoth truly a divine being, Or was he an ancient scholar, a bearer of knowledge who utilized forgotten technologies or spiritual practices that made him seem godlike to those around him? Thoth's association with the moon and knowledge of the stars could suggest an intimate understanding of astronomy, something that was far beyond the capabilities of most ancient civilizations. Similarly, consider the Sumerian gods, the Anunnaki. These beings are often cited in modern ancient astronaut theories, which propose that extraterrestrial beings visited Earth long ago, sharing knowledge of advanced technology with primitive humans. The Anunnaki's supposed role in creating humanity is often misunderstood. But what if these gods were actually ancient engineers or scientists, imparting knowledge that would help shape the future of human civilization? As we begin to explore these possibilities, it becomes clear that the ancient gods were not merely mystical beings, but could have been part of a much larger, far more sophisticated reality, one where technology, knowledge, and spiritual wisdom were intricately woven together. The stories of divine miracles, like the parting of the Red Sea or the summoning of storms, could very well be misunderstood descriptions of high-tech equipment or powerful rituals used to control natural forces. But why hasn't this truth come to light? What kept us from seeing these gods for what they truly were? One answer could lie in the deliberate manipulation of these stories throughout history. Ancient knowledge has been hidden, lost, or intentionally buried, often to maintain control over the masses. As we move forward, we'll continue to peel back the layers of these ancient myths, revealing their true significance and what they tell us about our own history. Let's dive deeper into the layers of mystery surrounding these ancient gods. The more we look, the more inconsistencies and contradictions emerge, challenging the narrative we've been taught for centuries. Take, for example, the Greek gods, who were not only powerful but flawed, engaging in human-like activities such as jealousy, love, and revenge. This behavior is often explained as a reflection of human nature, but what if it's not a reflection at all? What if these gods were simply representatives of a higher, more complex intelligence, acting according to laws of nature that we cannot fully comprehend? The concept of divine wrath, seen in many ancient cultures, might not be a spiritual or emotional response from a god, but rather an attempt to balance or correct energies within the universe. Could it be that these gods were not so much deities, but cosmic forces or entities that influence the world through their sheer will, using principles we are still trying to understand? Furthermore, many ancient texts, like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth or the Epic of Gilgamesh, mention gods who shared their knowledge of the stars, the heavens, and advanced knowledge of geometry, mathematics, and medicine. These figures didn't just rule, they taught. They were the bearers of enlightenment, guiding humanity toward a greater understanding of the cosmos. But over time, these teachings were distorted, twisted, and hidden, reducing the gods to mere mythological creatures instead of revered teachers of ancient wisdom. So, what were these gods really? They were possibly extraterrestrial beings, advanced humans from forgotten civilizations, or even energetic forces tied to the very fabric of reality itself. But they were not gods in the traditional sense. Their powers and influence were likely the result of knowledge that was so far beyond the scope of ancient humanity that it appeared as divine intervention. Now that we've explored the true nature of these ancient gods, how can we apply this understanding to our lives today? If these ancient beings were keepers of lost knowledge, then perhaps we, too, have access to hidden truths about the universe that have been kept from us. Modern science and spirituality may be on the verge of rediscovering this ancient wisdom, which could radically shift our understanding of reality. For example, many of the practices attributed to ancient civilizations such as sacred geometry, astrology, and alchemy are now gaining attention in the modern world. These teachings were not mere superstition, but practical tools for understanding and manipulating the natural world. By revisiting these ancient practices with an open mind, we might unlock new possibilities for healing, creativity, and even interdimensional exploration. To begin, try learning more about sacred geometry. Many ancient civilizations believed that the universe operated according to specific patterns and shapes. These patterns were seen in the natural world, from the growth of plants to the structure of the cosmos. By studying these forms, you might discover a deeper connection to the world around you and gain insights into the hidden forces that govern your life. Similarly, you can explore ancient rituals and practices that invoke cosmic energies or seek enlightenment. Meditation, prayer, and even certain rituals were believed to connect the practitioner to higher realms of consciousness, much like the gods of old. By adopting these practices in a modern context, you can tap into a greater understanding of yourself and the universe. The ancient gods were not what we thought. They were not simply divine figures in the heavens, dispensing favors to those below. Instead, they were reflections of a greater, more profound reality, one where knowledge, technology, and spirituality converged. The gods were symbols of lost wisdom, carriers of knowledge that was too advanced for their time and too dangerous for us to understand without proper guidance. As we move forward in our own quest for truth, we must remember that the answers are out there, hidden beneath layers of myth and misinterpretation. The question is not whether the gods existed, but what they were truly trying to teach us. And as we unravel these mysteries, we may discover that the divine is not out of reach, but deeply embedded within us all. What do you think? Were the gods of old truly divine, or were they just messengers of something far greater? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let us continue this conversation together. Share this video with those who seek to understand the hidden mysteries of our past. Who knows, perhaps the gods are waiting for us to remember their secrets.